Are you looking for inspiration on a daily basis? Well, check out Deal to Heal Teas. With our inspirational teas, you're sure to find something that will inspire you. Just go to dealtohealteas.myshopify.com. That's Deal to Heal Teas. Put some inspiration in your situation. Wear inspirational tea and be inspired all day. That's Deal to Heal Teas at dealtohealteas.myshopify.com. Hey guys, this is Ernest James, host of the Deal to Heal with E. James podcast, and I got a question to ask you. Could you buy me a cheeseburger? Better yet, could you buy me a value meal? Yes? Well, guess what? I don't need a value meal. However, for the cost of a value meal, you can support this podcast to keep us on the air. Just go to Patreon/Deal to Heal podcast and choose any one of the 3 tiers that's available. And if you just want to make a one-time donation, go to Cash App and make a donation to $E James, the number 418. Make a one-time donation to the Cash App, or again, go to Patreon to support this podcast and keep us on the air. Thanks in advance. Be blessed. Welcome to Deal to Heal with E. James podcast. On this podcast, my guest and I will discuss topics and ways to help us to heal in every area of our lives. I believe that everyone can live a life that is happy, healthy, and whole. So I'm on a mission to help people to deal, heal, and fulfill. Deal with your problem, heal from the pain, and fulfill your purpose. Thanks for tuning in. Let's get to it. Welcome to the Deal to Heal with E. James podcast. I am your host, Ernest James, and I believe that everyone can and should live a life that is whole, healed, and healthy. And therefore, I'm on a mission to help people to deal, to heal, and to fulfill. To deal with your problems, to heal from the pain, and to fulfill your purpose. Thank you guys once again for tuning in to the Deal to Heal with E. James podcast. If you haven't already, make sure that you listen, like, subscribe, and share to the podcast on all of our social media outlets. Definitely on our YouTube page. Definitely want to get those numbers up on YouTube, but also on our Facebook page, all of our social media outlets for that matter. Make sure you guys are liking and sharing. Yeah, don't keep it to yourself. Share with someone else, right? You know, of course, we got some good stuff. We bring some good stuff to you, or you wouldn't be listening, right? So since we know you're listening, you know you love it. Share it to somebody else. Don't be selfish. Share the love. Share the information. Also, guys, I'm going to tell you how you can win $100 from the podcast, and it don't cost you anything, but you got to stay until the end, listening to the end to get that information. So just hold on, right? So our next segment that we started is our product of the week. That's our product of the week. So listen up. Our product of the week this week is one of our inspirational teas, and this one says, health is wealth, right? This is our health is wealth tea. I'll let you look at it a little bit. For those of you that's on YouTube, you'll be able to see it. For those of y'all that's not on YouTube, go to YouTube and check it out, right? But it's our health is wealth inspirational tea, and because definitely health is our greatest wealth that we can have, because money means nothing if you ain't got your health to enjoy it, right? But speaking of wealth, today we will be talking about wealth, because we will be talking about financial literacy, definitely for all of us, not just for for teens. My guest definitely talks about financial literacy for teens, but it just doesn't affect teens. It definitely affects all of us. But if we get able to get this information at a young age, it definitely can change the outlook of our families. Also, our websites is out. Our new websites, we definitely check us our company website, at dealhealfulfill.org. That's dealhealfulfill.org. Check out our company website and ebooksbyejames.com, where our ebooks are. Definitely, you heard me talk about it before. There's 3 ebooks that's available from Males to Men, which is a male mentoring ebook. The core 4, which is the core 4 values every daughter should get from her father. Ebook is available, and also Forgiving Me, the 4 steps to self-forgiveness. All of those are available at ebooksbyejames.com. So make sure you guys check that out. I think that's good. We'll talk about some other stuff a little later. So today, just like any other day, we are blessed with a guest, Mr. Phillip. How are you doing?
Hey, how you doing, brother? I'm good.
I'm good. I didn't want to mess up your first name, so that's why I went by the last name. Pronounce your first name for me so I can get it right.
Oh, it's Kerwyn.
Kerwyn. Okay. I thought that's what it was, but I didn't want to take a chance on
I got you.
So first of all, let me say thank you for being here, man. I definitely appreciate it. And I know you could be doing anything else, but you took out the time to be here with me and my listeners. So I want you to know up front, I definitely appreciate it. So we're going to jump right in it. One of the things that I know, Kerwyn, from a previous conversation is that you are a girl dad. So
Yes,
when I have a girl dad on, first 2 questions out the gate, what does it mean to you to be a girl dad, and what is something your daughter or daughters have taught you?
Oh man. So I'd say, what does it mean? It means a lot. I mean, I only have one daughter. I have 2 sons, 1 daughter. So we spend a lot of time together. She's always, trying to pick my brain for stuff and asking a lot of questions. So it means a lot. It means a lot. We've got a good bond, a good relationship. So just being able to pour into her and just the different questions that she asks me, just know that she's really on top of things and really trying to get to that next level. And I would say something that she's taught me is patience. It takes a lot of patience to work with my daughter and raise her and just love her and stuff like that. So I'd say just the art of patience and being able to because she's like me in a lot of ways. So it's like dealing with myself oftentimes. So it's like, okay,
I feel you. I feel you. I feel you. That's exactly. I always say now. I get to say now. My baby's not a baby no more. Actually, by the time this comes out, she would have made 20. So she'll be 20 years old by the time this airs. But yeah, so my baby's not a baby no more. She's my only biological child. I have 4 bonus sons, my stepsons, but now I'm a grandfather to 2 granddaughters. So that's a whole nother aspect. Thank you. That's a whole nother aspect of fatherhood and being a girl dad. To be a girl granddad, oh, that's a whole nother thing. You get all the glory with none of the trouble, right?
I know that's right.
You can send them home like they start acting up or whatever. Like, hey, go to your dad. So definitely. So man, let's jump right in. Let's go. Matter of fact, let me start here because I should have did this first. But do me a favor, introduce yourself to my audience and let us know exactly who you are and what it is that you do.
Oh man. So my name is Kerwyn Phillip. I'm a finance literacy advocate. I'm an author, podcast host, nonprofit leader. Just basically I work around children, like trying to empower youth. Get them to the next level, give them information I wish I had when I was their age. Speak about financial literacy, entrepreneurship, just different levels of success that I think young people need nowadays.
Okay. So do me a favor. Let's go back a little bit, right? So before you were this version of yourself, and because there's always a story behind the story, right?
Right.
And everything that we approach, every problem that we approach, every situation where we coach on, generally it touched us in some part of our life. You know what I'm saying? And so take me back before you were this version of yourself. Tell me a little bit about your upbringing and your own experiences that brought you to the point it was like, all right, I'm into this financial literacy stuff, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? And what kind of brought you to that point that it was like, all right, due to my own experience, now I'm going to teach it, to the next generation.
Yeah. So, born and raised in Brooklyn, New York, in the Brownsville section, two-parent household. I was a person. I always tell people like I hung out on the block, but I wasn't in the streets. You
Mhm.
know, um, you know, guys outside. But at the time when I was coming up, it was a sense of community, right? The older guys in the neighborhood always looked out for two groups: the elders and the youth, right? And that's something that's always been instilled with me throughout. No matter what the guys were doing out in the street, they made sure the kids were straight and the elders were respected. So that's the era in which I came up in which kind of is still within me now. Um, Early adult years, thought I had it all figured out. Um, Parents trying to provide certain guidance that I didn't listen to. Then I found myself getting into some, financial struggles. Then took me years to get out of. And as I got older and I was able to figure certain things out, I said, you know what? I want to be able to give young people the information I wish I had or wish I listened to, at that point in time. That way I wouldn't have had the same issues that I had in my early adult years.
Yeah, yeah. So and I wanted to have you on for two reasons. Number one, because I think financial literacy is definitely something we need to have, on a broad, uh, stage across the board. Like I
Right,
said, not just necessarily with the youth, but also with some of us who are older, who still don't have, the knowledge of how to handle our finances.
right,
Even in my own life with people that I've met, same age as me. I'm 46, and I know people that's still struggling right now how to
yeah,
just balance their households. You know what I
right,
mean? Just from overspending or things like that. Which are simple things to fix once you understand it.
right,
But if you don't have that, if you weren't raised with it and you don't seek out the knowledge or just happen to come across someone who's willing to teach you about it, then you don't know. And the unfortunate part about that is you can't teach your kids what you don't know. You know what I
exactly.
mean? And so even with my parents, um, there were definitely some financial literacy.
Hmm.
Um, my parents at one point was doing very well.
Hmm.
We had the nice house and the cars and the campers and all of that. But I think even then it was still some uh, I think it still was some information that was missing, maybe in the investments, knowing about investments and things like that, because it was a season when my dad lost his job and we ended up
Hmm.
losing everything. You know what I
Wow.
mean? And so, um, yeah. But even with that, like I said, so my parents knew some things, but it still was
Hmm.
some other things missing because even myself, when I got older and I found out about adding my daughter on my credit card as an authorized user, which would give her my credit history. So
Yeah.
when my daughter started off, when she turned 18, I put her on my credit. So now she starts off with, A1 credit,
Right.
but my mom always had good credit, but she didn't
Hmm.
know about that. You know what I mean? To be able to do that, to be able to, give us that upper hand when we got started. So it's just a
Right.
whole different thing. So when you're talking about, just that mindset of, teaching financial literacy, to the kids, why do you think that's so important that they know?
Like you say, the earlier you get this information, the earlier you're able to start applying it. And they start making sense to you, right? So let's say, like with my kids, I teach them different things as they were coming up, as teenagers. Saving money, putting stuff to the side, learning the difference between wants and needs, right? The earlier you start practicing and start becoming aware of this information, then when you become an adult and you get your real job and you have real bills, then you've already practiced a lot of the
Hmm.
principles, and you have a better chance of being able to take advantage of different things that are around you, as opposed to not knowing, like myself, just doing crazy stuff that I shouldn't have done, because I didn't know any better. Just applying for credit cards, getting credit early, not really making, proper judgment, you know,
Mhm.
um, like buying my first car and getting in over my head and just, again, applying for credit and realizing that you have to pay that stuff back sometime,
Right.
you know, and it really messes you up if you're unaware. But if we're able to get our kids this information earlier on, then again, they have time to apply to really digest it. And then they have a better chance when they become early adults.
Yeah, and I think that kind of leads sort of into the next phase of it,
Hmm.
which is entrepreneurship,
Yeah.
and which is one of the things that you touch on, and also that like I said, in my experience, that played a part too, because when my parents lost everything, we
Hmm.
kind of got into this world of entrepreneurship, right?
Right.
My mom became the candy lady, right? And
Hmm.
so she started selling candy, and then so much so we had a van that's sort of looked like the 18 van,
Okay.
I'm dating myself, but
Hmm.
she set it up like the whole store was set up in the inside of the van, and she had
Okay.
shelves and everything, and so we would go drive through our neighborhood and sell candy, to the kids, like the ice cream truck.
Right.
And then my dad, who was a mechanic already, started working out of his garage as a mechanic, and so that was what we did. And well, that's what they started doing. And then as we got a little older, I don't know if you ever been, so I'm in Chicagoland area, so grew up in Chicago. So it's still the same now in some cases, but when you're coming off the expressways, and off the expressway ramp, and then there's people that's there that's selling like T-shirts and things like that. So we started doing that. Our parents started us off doing that as youngsters. So my brothers and I, we out there started out selling peanuts, bags of peanuts, and then we started selling T-shirts, and then ceramic statues, and all of these things right off the side of the expressway, in the city of Chicago. And
Right.
so that kind of entered us into this world of entrepreneurship and knowing what it means to, this is what you start with, this is profit, this is, you got to re-up after you sell, all of
Yep.
that stuff. So we started to learn all of that, at an early age. But
Hmm.
definitely still was some things that was missing, again, because my parents only knew so much, and so
Right.
had they known, a little bit more about entrepreneurship, we could have went into probably even started a family business, like I said, with my dad working out of his garage and actually start a garage and things like that. But I think some of that information was unknown to us or to
Right.
them at that time, so they couldn't teach us what they didn't know. But one of the things that you do is talk to youth about entrepreneurship and open
Yeah.
that door. So, talk to us a little bit about number one, what you teach as far as opening up that door and introducing the youngsters to entrepreneurship and what that is and what that means. But then
Right.
even take it a what you've done to take it a step further was then give them the opportunity to showcase,
Right.
their entrepreneurship. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yes. So I'm a co-founder of a nonprofit organization called the Youth Business Exchange here in Richmond, Virginia, where we teach, promote, and market youth entrepreneurship. We partner with a local organization called the Metropolitan Business League, which is a organization that supports minority businesses, and they have a youth division as well, the MBL Junior, and they provide workshops that teach young people about entrepreneurship, the ins and outs, and then our nonprofit steps in and hosts events. Like one of the big events that we host every year is the Richmond Children's Business Fair, which is the annual event where young people between the ages of 5 and 17, young entrepreneurs, have the opportunity to promote their products and services to the general public. It's a public marketplace. This is our sixth, we've been doing it for about 6 years. The first year we had about 30 kids participate, but most recently we have over 80 young
Mm,
people. And they come with a wide range of businesses from jewelry, baked goods, lemonade, costume designs, all kind of stuff. And it's important to get these young people started early with with entrepreneurship because they learn so many different skills that's gonna hold on to, that they will hold on to as they become adults as well, right? You think about you as an entrepreneur, you think about doing sales, the rejection, overcoming rejection,
hmm
you know, and going for the no's to eventually get to a yes,
Yep.
right? Communication skills, the financial literacy aspect, marketing, um, just overall social, or knowing that, everybody's not going to buy from you, but you just can't, get upset if they don't buy. You just take it and say, okay, well, again, they're not a customer of mine. Now I need to get ready for the next person, you
Mm-hmm.
know. So you got to take that law, learning how to overcome laws, right? Overcome those no's. And some people can't. You have some adults who can't overcome that. But if kids, learn that early, they'll become so much more successful when they become adults.
Man, so I know that, man. So that number one, that's amazing. Definitely that you guys have hit the fact that you got over 80 young
Yeah.
kids. That I think that's just amazing right there within itself. But I'm sure that there is with you being there from the beginning, like when you first meeting these kids and start pouring into them, and then get to the point where they're able to now present their idea and present their business to the world. I know there's a transformation there. So talk to me a little bit about just that empowerment that it gives a youngster who you might meet when you first meet them, that may even be shy or whatever, and just like, I don't know, but then you start pouring into them and see that change of pride when it comes to, this is what I built, and to be able to present it. So tell us a little bit about that, just that empowerment that it gives the youth with having this opportunity.
Yeah, it's funny. We have like several kids that's been with us since the first business fair, and to see them grow over the years. Like, they start with one product, and then as their mindset shifts and their interests change, so does their business ideas change. You know, and as you said, there's certain kids that come in, like the first year that came in, they were so shy and timid, and and was kind of scared to communicate. But then as years progress, they get that practice in year after year, and now you can't get them to be quiet. They just they stand so confident as they talk about their business, you know, and they pursue other interests as well, so they don't just stay in that one bracket. Then also the testimonies we get from the parents saying, wow, my child was so sheltered and timid when we first started, but now they're doing this business. Now they have other things that they're doing as well, and they see it. They see their academics performance increase as well, because now they have that confidence that they
Mm-hmm.
can excel. That they find something they're good at,
Yeah.
and their interaction with their peers is totally different. So it impacts the kids so many different ways. That it's remarkable to see as they grow and they mature.
Yeah, and I think that's amazing, because I know when my daughter turned 18,
Hmm.
she was still in high school at the time, but she was really into photography and audio video.
Hmm.
So I talked to her about starting her own company, and
Right.
one of the things that I did for her 19th birthday was to go get her LLC started.
Right.
For her business. I'm like, when you're ready, you already got it's already started. It's just a
Hmm.
matter of you putting the work in to take it to that next level.
Right.
But again, like you said, also their interests change. You know what I
Yep.
mean? So now she's like, okay, I still want to do it, but I think I want to go to college. And you're like, all right, well, go to college and get that experience. And if you still want to come back to it, it's always here. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And so now she's exploring this her first year of being away for college. She was already in college, but now this is her
Hmm.
first year actually being on a dorm and experiencing that whole thing. And so, yeah, so their interests changed, but that foundation is there now. You know
Oh
what I
yeah.
mean? That
Oh yeah.
foundation is there, the understanding is there, and they always know that opportunity is there.
Hmm.
And even with the podcast with me, I did a couple podcasts, and I took her with me where I was a guest, and I
Hmm.
took her with me to the podcast studio. And so she was able to sit in and see see the ins and out of that. And she even, expressed interest with, starting her own podcast. And I'm like, hey,
Yeah.
whenever you're ready, we can do it. So definitely excited just as a father to
Yeah.
place that, before her as an option, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
Because it was something that I had to learn myself. So yeah, one of the other things that you do, two other things that's kind of connected,
Right.
is you also have a podcast,
Yes.
But before the podcast, there was a book, right?
Yes.
Which kind of started this whole movement, that we're on right now. So tell us a little bit. First of all, tell us a little bit even about the story that led you to say, okay, I'm gonna write this book.
Right.
Then number two, the process of writing, because I'll share with you right now. I got the 3 ebooks, and I'm ashamed to say this because I keep saying it. I've been working on this, my first hardcover book, and I still ain't finished it yet. So I know that process is something within itself.
Yeah.
So tell me more about the idea that
Right.
led you to want to start the book. Number one.
Mm-hmm.
Number two, that process of getting it started. And then number three, how that even led to you doing the podcast.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I was doing workshops with young people. Originally, I started out doing hip hop history workshops with young people. Right. Right now we're looking at the 50th anniversary of hip hop. And I saw young people. They talk about the current artists, and I'm being a hip hop head. I always want to talk about when I was coming up. And when we look at the history of hip hop, these pioneers we speak about, Kool Herc, Flash, Bambaataa, Curtis Blow, they were teenagers at the time in the early 70s when they were developing this thing. And from the mind of teenagers grew this multi-billion-dollar industry, right? So if we let young people know that, okay, well, this thing that you see now came from 12, 13, 14-year-old kids being creative. Now, what
Right.
can y'all do now, right? So doing the hip hop history workshops and I used to call them the youth empowerment workshops, it kind of evolved into get into like financial literacy and interviewing skills. So with me doing like some of the financial literacy stuff I was doing with the young people, I was using other people's books like The Richest Man in Babylon, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and a few others. And I found that the young people really couldn't connect with the content, right? They were losing interest in the books because they couldn't relate to the characters. So I said, how can I take the same information, this financial literacy information, package it in a way that our young people will want to read it? And that's what gave birth to the book Malik's First Job: Financial Principles for Teens, right? The book is about a young man, in the city, going on his first job interview at a sneaker store. We know our kids are into sneakers, right? And after he gets the job, he sits down with his father to learn how to manage his money, And again, I wanted to write the book in a way that the kids can relate to, like it's written in a certain slang, it's not all rigid and structured. It's in a way that, okay, when they read the characters speaking, it's like, wait, we speak like that. It's terms that they can understand. That way they can get past that barrier and really digest the information, right? So that's what really gave birth to me writing the book. Now, the process to write the book, it took me about 3 years to finish it.
Yeah.
To finish it, like
That's
I
not
sat
about
down.
right.
I sat initially and I kind of wrote down. I had the idea of what I wanted to cover, but I think that what took the most time was to write the dialogue in the book and the different scenarios within the book as well. And that's what really took the time. And then I really kind of had to push myself to get it done. And I finally did it, got someone to help me with the editing and with me getting it onto Amazon and the different publishing platforms for self-published authors. Went through that whole process and put the book out.
Yeah, yeah. And so eventually, the book led to you doing the podcast. So tell us a little bit about the podcast.
Yeah, so after the book came out, I was promoting it to different people, friends and family, and then several people came to me and said, "Okay, why don't you do a podcast? Help promote the book." Now, initially, I was like, "No, I don't want to do a podcast. I'm not, that's not my thing." But then, as time progressed, and I thought about it, and I came across, I met David Shands. Went through his program about launched the podcast challenge, and I said, you know what, I'm gonna go ahead and take a stab at it. And I went ahead and launched it, and I did the Malik's First Job podcast, where we speak about leadership, entrepreneurship, and financial literacy for parents and teens. And just have different guests that cover those topics. And again, just it's another avenue for me to help reach people and teach information beyond the book, right? Because there's gonna be other books within this series that cover not just financial literacy, but also leadership and entrepreneurship. So it's gonna grow as the brand grows as well.
Okay. Definitely want to shout out to David Shands.
Oh yeah.
That's where I got my start too with the podcast, with the information of the ins and outs on how to actually build a podcast.
Yeah.
I took the Lunch Your Podcast Challenge twice.
Okay.
And the second time I took it just number one for the community, because it definitely was enough information for me to get started and to get into this field. But I wanted to do it the second time around just because I enjoyed the first time,
Yeah.
So I did it twice. So definitely want to shout out to David Shands. Don't get paid to promote him, but I definitely do because I
Oh yeah.
appreciate him. And he also has a podcast course now where you can take the online course and teach you how to, build your podcast and monetize and all those things. So definitely want to shout out to David. So how long have you been doing a podcast?
Oh man, I started out January of last year, and I'm about they say that the average podcast person was less than 10 episodes.
Yeah, 6.
It's 6.
Yep.
It's
6
6
episodes.
episodes. All right, so I just published my 40th episode.
Okay.
Last week. Had some breaks in between, because like life happens.
Right.
But but I stayed the course, and like I said, we're still going. So
yeah. Well, congrats. Definitely, I hit that year mark, 52 episodes not too long ago.
Okay.
By the time this will come out, I'll be in my 3rd season. This will be the 92nd episode, so we can get close to 100. Getting close to 100 episodes, so I definitely know the journey, man, and definitely appreciate it. Being in this space, it opens so many doors, even with entrepreneurship itself. And like you said, by even starting a podcast, which a lot of things one of the things people don't know is that definitely is the way to, promote your own products and things like that. It kind of like one hand washes the other. So you start with the book and then you do the podcast, and the podcast promotes the book, and then the book is, supports the podcast on the back end, So definitely podcasting is outside of just being a great medium by itself. When it comes to business, it definitely is an asset, to whatever you got going on, whether you host your own podcast or whether you're a guest, and to get in front of different audiences. So we always looking for sponsors, you know what I mean? And for people that want to get on and promote their things here, as long as it's in the area that's going to bring some help and some healing, to my audience, which is what we all about. So as long as the missions align, definitely love extending my platform to be able to, be that opportunity for somebody who needs it. So man, definitely, man, I'm glad to have you on. Glad that you came on, because again, this financial literacy, like I said, if we swing a little bit into the adults, we talked a lot about the kids, but just in the lives of adults, because I'm sure even some of the children that you are teaching these things to, in turn have to teach some of them to their parents, because their parents don't even know. Like I said, with my experience, my parents did know a lot, but knowing what I know now, it was a lot of stuff that they didn't know, that had they had known, like I said, at that time when my dad was working out of his garage, that he could have took that opportunity to actually build a garage as a business, because he did that for years. I mean, he had grew up being a mechanic anyway. He was a jet mechanic in the service. You know what I mean? So definitely had the credibility, and the knowledge and the know-how to do it, but maybe I don't think was necessarily exposed to the fullness of entrepreneurship and financial literacy. So even when you're talking to some of the parents, I'm sure you have parents that's probably asking you questions like, well, how do you do this and how do you do that? So what is some of your experience even just talking to the parents?
Man, it's so funny because I have parents who purchased the book and they say, yeah, I bought this for my child, but I had to read it myself because it's information I didn't know. You know, they didn't know about paying themselves first. They didn't know about, you know, investing and, you know, putting money to the side and the interest rate that you get from a bank versus, you know, other means of trying to multiply your money. So it's just some of the feedback, you know, you get from the parents is amazing. You know, that even though my audience, my initial audience was children, but I also see them helping adults as well, because, you know, it's a blessing, right?
Yeah.
And it's again, and the way it's written is written, you know, in a simple way, right? So it's not too complex. So the parents are like, hey, I can understand this. It's not all those complex terms and the terminologies and the, you know, the intimidating, how it comes across intimidating. They say this is digestible and I can understand it. So, you know, people like things simple anyway, right?
Yeah.
When you try to overcomplicate it, you just kind of lose people after a while anyway. So,
Yeah, and I definitely, like I said, I appreciate it, because just knowing my own story, and had I known, and had my parents known, some of the stuff that you teach, you know, in your book and through your programs, it definitely could have changed things around for my family quicker. I mean, we
right.
definitely put the work into, you know, my dad and my mom to get us to where we are now. But had we had that information, that turnaround would have been quicker. And even with
Right.
my own self, with the businesses and things that I have, you know, had I known the information I know now earlier, even
Yeah.
that would have got started quicker. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
so it could have been a different experience and a different conversation of me even having the conversation with my daughter about business. You know, man, she could have started something at 14, 15, you know, instead of, you know, waiting till she finished college and things like that. So just the opportunities that it brings, that information in general
Yeah.
brings, you know, and then, but then also the outlook and the effect that it has, especially the effect that financial literacy has on a family from one generation to generation is just amazing when you have the know-how and you have the wisdom and the knowledge of what it means to build it, what it
Yeah.
means to manage it, you know, and what it means to pass it on to the next generation, you know,
Yeah.
building that legacy and building those opportunities for them to be able to go to college, you know, and things like that, that usually they probably would have taken loan out
Yeah.
for. But if we get the knowledge early enough and we put systems in place that we can
Yep.
be paying for generation and generation, you know, that we may never even meet, you know what I mean? But
Yeah.
be able to set them up in ways that we, you know, better ways we can't even imagine. So yeah, man, I definitely I appreciate you, man. I appreciate you for all that you do and
Thank
everything.
you.
I want you to have the last word, right? I want you to have the last word, and definitely leave us with a word of wisdom, inspiration, however you see fit, you
Yeah.
know, see fit to share, and definitely share your social media outlet
Okay.
information and the podcast information. So I'll give you a second to think about that, how you want to
Yeah.
leave us. To my
Yeah.
audience, man, thank you guys once again for tuning in to the Deal to Heal with E. James podcast. And I told you guys at the top of the episode that I would tell you how you can win $100 from the podcast. And you can win $100 from the podcast by entering our super subscriber contest. So what does that mean? That means you must subscribe to our YouTube channel, our Facebook page, and our podcast on Spotify. And after you've done those three things, you text the word WIN, WIN, to the number 866-326-0730 to qualify to win $100. So the contest is ongoing, so it never stops, and it's random. So at any time on any day, I can pull a name and you can win $100 just like that, right? And don't cost you anything. And it's to do something that you're doing anyway, which is listening to the podcast. So again, you can win $100 from the podcast by entering our super subscriber contest, which you must subscribe to our YouTube channel, our Facebook page, and our podcast on Spotify. Then text the word WIN, WIN, to the number 866-326-0730. So, Mr. Phillip, again, let me say
Yes, sir.
thank you so very much for being here, for sharing your wisdom, your knowledge with us and with my listeners. I definitely appreciate you, and I'll let you have the last word. So the floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So, as you said, oftentimes people often say that I wish I had the information when I was younger, right? And we as adults, we can't change what happened in the past, right? But what we can do is take the information that we learned from our experience in the past and pour that wisdom into our children. And that way they can have a better future than, than the past in which we had, right? And that's how we create a legacy, right? We push the culture forward by pouring into our young people. And it's very important for us to do that. We can't be selfish. We can't just hold on to the information that we have, because we went through what we went through for a reason, right? We hear Jay-Z say in one of his songs, Hov did that, so hopefully you wouldn't have to go through that, right? Mm-hmm. So the struggles that we've gone through, we use that as a lesson to teach our children, because oftentimes when we deal with our children, we're looking at ourselves, right? So it's like teaching, like I mentioned earlier, when I look at my daughter, I see myself oftentimes. So I got to teach myself so that as she moves forward, and my other kids, as they all move forward, that they won't slip over the same banana peels or whatever, or the hurdles that I had to go through. They'll have a better advantage of either going around it or jumping a little bit higher over it, so they don't stumble over those different things, right? So don't hesitate to pour into your children. And if you don't even have your own children, we're a village. Mm-hmm. Pour into other kids that's outside your immediate circle, because they all need it. They all need it.
Right. And where can they find your social media outlets and things like that?
Yeah, so I'm on, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn. Just look up, Kerwyn Phillip. My website, maliksfirstjob.com. My podcast is on it's on all podcast platforms. You look up the Malik's First Job podcast. It's on YouTube as well. And if you're interested in getting a copy of my book, you'll find a link within the show notes below, whereas you'll be able to get access to the book as well and purchase your own copy.
All right. We can't end it no better than that. To my listeners, thank you guys once again for tuning in to the Deal to Heal with E. James podcast, where my mission is to help people to deal, to heal, and to fulfill, to deal with your problems, to heal from the pain, and to fulfill your purpose. So until next week, you guys be blessed. Hey guys, I know you're enjoying the podcast. However, don't forget to join our text line at 866-326-0730. That's 866-326-0730 in order to receive text messages with new events and things that is going on and new episodes as they release. All right, see you in a minute. Thanks for listening to the Deal to Heal with E. James podcast. Remember to listen, like, subscribe, and share. This episode has been brought to you by Deal to Heal Teas. Put some inspiration in your situation. Wear an inspirational tea and be inspired all day. Let's go to dealtohealteas.myshopify.com. Remember, our mission is to help you to deal, heal, and fulfill. Deal with your problem, heal from the pain, and fulfill your purpose. Thanks for listening.